4 out of 5 dead. That was the result of Colorado's most expensive wildlife experiment in its first month. In February 1999, state biologists released wild-caught Canada lynx from Alaska into the frozen San Juan Mountains. Each cat cost roughly $50,000 to trap, transport, and deploy. Within weeks, 4 of the first 5 had starved to death in the snow. The headlines were brutal. One critic described the entire operation as the link between Lynx and stupidity. Media coverage framed it as a taxpayer-funded execution. Government bureaucrats dumping exotic cats into a frozen graveyard and expecting a miracle. But the critics missed something. Everyone was so focused on the dying lynx that nobody noticed what was happening to the forest itself. Millions of trees were being eaten alive from the inside by a beetle the size of a grain of rice. 14 months later, the skeptics went silent. The Canada lynx had roamed Colorado's high-altitude forests for thousands of years, a specialist predator evolved for deep snow and subalpine darkness. Then humans arrived with traps, poison, and chainsaws. Unregulated fur trapping gutted the population starting in the 1880s. Government predator control programs finished the job. Strychnine baits meant for wolves and coyotes killed lynx indiscriminately. The cats scavenged poisoned carcasses and died by the dozens. By 1973, Colorado listed the species as endangered. 1 year later, the last known native lynx was illegally trapped near Vail. Over the next 2 decades, 11 separate searches failed to find a single animal. For 25 years, the subalpine forests stood empty. No lynx tracks in the powder. No kills cached under spruce boughs. The predator-prey dynamic that had shaped snowshoe hare behavior for millennia simply ceased to exist. The high country had gone ecologically mute. That silence and the desperation behind it is what drove Colorado's Division of Wildlife to attempt something most experts considered reckless. The man leading the reintroduction had a problem beyond the dying cats. Gene Byrne, the principal architect of the program, was wildly allergic to lynx. He couldn't handle them without breaking into hives. And yet, he was about to argue for a protocol that meant spending more time with the animals, not less. Byrne and his research team dissected every failure from that first catastrophic winter. What they found was counterintuitive. The lynx weren't dying because Colorado couldn't support them. They were dying because of how they were being released. Standard translocation protocol at the time favored hard releases. Trap the animal, fly it south, open the crate, walk away. The theory was simple: minimize captivity stress, get them into the wild fast. The data told a different story. Wild-caught lynx, stressed from capture and transport, were burning through their fat reserves before they could learn the terrain, locate prey corridors, or establish territory. Some wandered over 300 miles in a disoriented search for food. They weren't adapting. They were panicking. So the team did something no major carnivore reintroduction had tried at this scale. They held the cats. For 45 days minimum, sometimes up to 90, every incoming lynx was kept in a Colorado holding facility, fed a high-calorie diet designed to pack on fat reserves. The animals weren't just being housed. They were being metabolically armored for survival. The shift was dramatic. Across the broader early cohorts, not just those first 5 doomed animals, first-year survival under the original rapid release protocol sat at roughly 80%. Under the 45-day protocol, that number climbed past 97%. Starvation deaths dropped to near zero. 218 lynx were released between 1999 and 2006. Every single one carried a satellite transmitter. This wasn't a hope and pray operation anymore. It was the most intensively monitored carnivore reintroduction in North American history. But surviving the winter was only half the problem. The forest itself was about to change in ways nobody anticipated. How does a beetle smaller than a pencil eraser reshape 20,000 square miles of mountain terrain? Between 2004 and 2016, the spruce beetle, a native insect normally kept in check by cold winters, exploded across the San Juan Mountains. Drought, rising temperatures, and vast stands of same-aged mature spruce created perfect epidemic conditions. By 2016, 85% of the mature spruce in the Rio Grande National Forest was dead. Millions of trees, gray needleless skeletons standing in rows across entire valleys. To forest managers and the public, This looked like the final nail in the coffin. The lynx had been reintroduced into spruce fir habitat, and now that habitat was a graveyard. Surely the cats would leave. Surely reproduction would collapse. Researcher John Squires and his team fitted 10 adult lynx with high-precision global positioning system collars and surveyed 735 vegetation plots across the beetle kill zone. What they found changed the way the United States Forest Service manages disturbed forests. The lynx weren't leaving, they were thriving. When the mature canopy died, something remarkable happened at ground level. Sunlight, blocked for decades by dense spruce crowns, flooded the forest floor. Young subalpine fir and spruce seedlings, suppressed for years, surged upward in a phenomenon ecologists call understory release. Within a few growing seasons, the dead forest had a dense, low carpet of new growth. That dense horizontal cover was exactly what snowshoe hares need to survive winter. Hare populations didn't crash in the beetle kill zones, they increased, and where the hares went, the lynx followed. Global positioning system data showed lynx actively selecting beetle-impacted stands over intact forest. They weren't avoiding the dead trees. They were hunting among them, using fallen logs as denning sites, stalking hares through thickets of young fir that grew waist-high in the gaps between gray trunks. The pest that was supposed to destroy the habitat had accidentally rebuilt it. And the lynx revealed another surprise. In northern Canada, lynx are obligate hare specialists. When hare populations crash, lynx populations follow. But the Colorado cats showed behavioral plasticity that nobody expected. When hare densities dipped, they switched to red squirrels and hunted them successfully 47% of the time, compared to 31% for hares. In a fragmented southern landscape with no reliable boom-bust hare cycle, the lynx had improvised a backup food supply. In 2003, 4 years after the program was publicly declared a failure, researchers documented 16 wild-born kittens in the San Juan Mountains. By 2005, that number hit 50 in a single year. In 2010, Colorado Parks and Wildlife officially declared the reintroduction a success, having met all 7 benchmark criteria for a self-sustaining population. In 1989, New York released 83 lynx into the Adirondack Mountains using hard-release protocols and minimal monitoring. That population never established. Most animals simply vanished. Colorado tracked every one of its 218 cats. That contrast is now a case study in how methodology determines whether a reintroduction lives or dies. The data those transmitters produced reshaped policy far beyond lynx conservation. The 2020 Forest Plan for the Rio Grande National Forest abandoned aggressive salvage logging in beetle kill zones, a practice that would have destroyed the very understory keeping hares and lynx alive. One cat's extraordinary 1,500-kilometer journey identified critical highway crossing points, leading directly to wildlife overpass construction on Interstate 70, structures that now protect elk, deer, and dozens of smaller species alongside lynx. But there is a critical limit to this success story, and climate change is testing it right now. The beetle kill benefit only works where the understory survives. When mature spruce dies slowly from beetle damage, sunlight reaches the forest floor gradually. Seedlings grow. Hair cover thickens. The habitat regenerates from below. But in forests destroyed by high-severity wildfire, which is becoming more frequent across the West, that horizontal cover burns completely. The canopy, the understory, the deadfall, gone. The landscape becomes unusable for lynx for decades. Managers in other states who look at Colorado's results and conclude that dead forest equals good habitat are making a dangerous miscalculation. The mechanism matters. Beetle kill creates refuge. Wildfire creates wasteland. And as fire seasons intensify, the window that saved Colorado's lynx may already be narrowing. Today, an estimated 75 to 100 lynx occupy the mountains of southern Colorado, a self-sustaining breeding population of a specialist predator, living in a forest that most people would look at and call dead. The numbers told a different story. They always did. A 45-day holding period, a beetle epidemic that rebuilt a forest from the ground up, and a cat that refused to follow the predictions written for it. A forest that looks dead turned out to be exactly what a specialist predator needed to build a future. Should conservation programs let landscapes transform on their own, even when transformation looks like destruction? That question is shaping policy right now. Drop your answer in the comments. And if stories where ecosystems rewrite the textbook are worth 10 minutes of your time, subscribe. There are more of them than anyone expected.